I believe it is recording.
Oh, it says on my screen it's recording now.
Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. I am Dr. Thamara Barthelus, and I have with me Tani Shern. She is with Student Financial Services, and she will be presenting on the FAFSA today. The topic for our webinar today is understanding student loans, and this is an area where many students struggle. So we're looking forward to having you get more understanding about how the student loan process works. As I said earlier, I am Dr. Thamara Barthelus, and I am a student financial wellness consultant. And what I do is I meet with students regarding anything related to money, whether it be budgeting, investments, or even understanding credit, whatever it has to do related to money, I help students with that. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I will be more than happy to sit down with you. I provide one-on-one consulting to students as well as webinars, and webinars can be in person whenever necessary or virtually as well. Tani will share a little more about herself later when she is presenting. And let's go ahead and get started with my portion. Our agenda today will focus on 5 key areas. The first one is identifying the terms that every student who, or even parent who is borrowing for student loans or borrowing student loans should understand. And those terms are cost of attendance, expected family contribution, and financial need. The second part of the presentation will be focusing on funding sources. What are those funding sources for those of us who cannot pay for college in cash? What are other funding sources other than student loans? Okay, there are scholarships available. There are grants that are available. Both of those are free money that students can actually utilize. Loans, there are different types of loans. Some of them are loans where the interests are deferred, federal loans. There's also private loans available. There's also subsidized loans for individuals who are in need. So we'll talk about different federal loans that are available to students. And Tani will complete the presentation with the FAFSA. Now let's go ahead and start with some of the terminology. The first thing students must know is what is cost of attendance. Cost of attendance is basically how much it will cost you to attend the university. As a TU student, how much will it cost you every year to attend TU? So there are 2 basic areas that you have to think of. The first one, or 2 different types of costs you have to take into consideration. The first one is direct costs, and the second one is indirect costs. Direct costs are those costs that must be paid to the university. For example, tuition and fees, room and board, your meal plan, parking, permits. Those are costs that you pay directly to the university. So we call them direct costs. Indirect costs are costs that is necessary for you to actually complete your college experience. For example, as a college student, you do need books and you do need school supplies. Those costs are costs that you incur, but you're not paying them to the university. Those are things that you need for yourself. Living off campus, having an apartment, if you're not living on campus, you're living off campus, then you are probably paying out of pocket to live off campus. Transportation is another thing. TU or any university does not pay for student transportation. And where it says personal expenses, it could be expenses for groceries, expenses for clothes, whatever it is that you may need during the academic year. So cost of attendance is very, very important that you understand. Expected family contribution, that is essentially how much will you and your family apply or give towards your education. So how is that calculated? That is essentially calculated by after you have completed the FAFSA. If you have not completed the FAFSA, then there is no way the university will know how much you or you and your family are able to contribute. So it's important that that part is done. When that is done, then the university will be able to determine your level of financial need. And financial need is basically the cost of attendance, how much it will cost for you to attend TU, minus the amount that you or your family will be contributing towards your education. So whatever the difference is, that is called your financial need. Now, once your financial need is determined, then we have to find the type of assistance, financial aid assistance, that will best suit your need. Now, here's the thing. There are some assistance that will be given to some individuals, but not other individuals, simply because of what their financials have demonstrated. So once you complete the FAFSA lets us know exactly what you will need. So here are, for individuals who have been identified as having a financial need, and that can be because your income, low income individuals tend to fall into this category. So we have the Pell Grant. The Pell Grant is usually given to individuals who have demonstrated need, okay? And the Pell Grant is one of those things that does not have to be repaid back. There's also the Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant. That, whenever you hear the word grant, it does not have to be repaid. Okay, so if you see grant on your award letter, get happy, because that money does not have to be repaid. Now, when you see loan, on the other hand, loan has to be repaid, and interest is also applied towards the loan. So federal subsidized loan is given to individuals who have demonstrated need, okay? And work study is something, it's actually something that the federal government provides to students to be able to have a part-time job while they're in school. Now, there are some non-need-based assistance. Let's say, for example, your information after reviewing the FAFSA, your information indicates that you are not in the financial need-based category. There is still assistance for you to be able to attend school. There are federal unsubsidized loans, and federal unsubsidized loans are those loans where you actually pay the interest. Once you fill out the application and you receive the funds to attend school, interest starts accumulating, but you don't have to pay it. You don't have to start paying your loan right then. There's also the Parent Plus loan. There's the Graduate Plus loan, and there's also the Teach grant. Okay, non-need based loan. How is that calculated? Now, we talked about the cost of attendance. Now, most students, when they get the cost of attendance, sometimes, most of the times, they are awarded some grants, they're awarded scholarships, they're awarded other form of assistance for college. So whenever that happens, what is done is everything is added up, and whatever the amount that is left over, that is the amount that is considered your area of need, your amount of need. Here's an example here. $45,000 is the cost of attendance for this particular university. However, the student was awarded $17,000, $5,000 a merit scholarship, $9,000 other scholarships and grants. Totaling the award package so far is $31,000. When you subtract that, it leaves from $45,000, it leaves $14,000 that the individual still needs, the student still needs assistance with. So that is when the unsubsidized loan would come into play, Okay, so the cost of attendance minus the amount that you have been awarded is considered your eligibility for non-need based loans. Sources for paying for college, we all know and probably know at least one person who is able to pay for college in cash, but that's not all of us, okay? So for many of us, we tend to rely more on scholarships and grants and also loans. And there are different types of loans. There are government loans and there's also private loans. Private loans are the type of loans I would recommend that you try to steer clear of unless you definitely have to. And the reason why I say that is because the interest is not fixed. Okay, and when it comes to repayment options, the repayment options are not as flexible as federal loan options are. Now let's talk about grants very briefly because Tani will cover them later on. Grants, there are so many different types of grants as well as different types of scholarships. The only thing about those two is sometimes it requires that you put a little more work into receiving them, being able to get them or qualifying for them. So for scholarships, usually individuals who are awarded scholarships, it's because of their merit scholarships, academic scholarships, where they have performed well in school. There's also athletic scholarships where individuals have performed well in sports. But then you have the scholarships where you have to pretty much let the scholarship questions, you have to respond to the scholarship questions, letting them know your worthiness, your level of worthiness for the funds that is being offered. And that usually takes some time and some challenge for some students because it requires writing an essay. But we can help you with that. Government grants, there are government grants, individual grants, and there are organizational grants that you can benefit from as well. When it comes to work study are actual federal grants for students to be able to work part-time, and there are on-campus jobs available for students. But make sure you apply early because the on-campus jobs will not remain open for a long time. And also, it can help you pay for your indirect costs. Another thing about on-campus jobs is you gain valuable experience that you may not be able to gain had you not had work study. And the hours are flexible because since you're working on campus, chances are that you are working for a department. It could be the education department, it could be, and if you're working for, let's say, the education department, you're working for a supervisor, under a supervisor, and the supervisor may be your professor. You never know. Let's talk about federal loans. Subsidized loans are the types of loans that are given to individuals who have demonstrated need, okay? So demonstrated need, we've already identified that, but because those individuals have demonstrated need, the federal government actually pays the interest for those loans while the student is in school, okay? So while you are in school, interest accumulates, but it's being paid by the federal government on your behalf. Once you're done with school, you don't have to pay the loan until 6 months after you've graduated. So it gives you a breather, help you get a job, gives you some time to get a job, and so forth. Unsubsidized loan, on the other hand, can be given to anyone. You do not have to demonstrate financial need at all. That can be given to anyone who is in need of student loans, assistance for college. And also for unsubsidized loans, interest does accrue. The government does not pay the interest while you are in school. And finally, just as the subsidized loan, you do not have to make any payments at all. Even though interest does accrue, you do not have to make payments while you are in school. Once you graduate, 6 months after you've graduated, then you start making repayments. Now, direct plus loans. There are two types of plus loans. There's the parent plus loan, and with the parent plus loan, you have to be related. You have to be the parent to the student that you are taking the loan out for. And the student also has to be an undergraduate student. A student cannot be a graduate student. If the student is a graduate student, then that student qualifies for a graduate plus loan. But if the student is undergraduate and a dependent as well, then the parent can actually take out a parent plus loan. The thing about plus loans that are different than the subsidized and the unsubsidized loan is as soon as disbursement is made, the parent is required to start making payments. But the parent can actually ask to delay payments until 6 months after the student has graduated. Okay, the request must be made. If the request is not made, then payment is expected as soon as disbursement has been made. For graduate loans, on the other hand, they're made out to graduate students and professional students, but payments are not required to be made until 6 months after graduation, or if the student falls below half-time. Okay, so if the student falls below half-time, then the federal government will require that payment start being made. And what are some of those federal loan limits? A lot of students ask, how much will I be receiving in loans? So yes, you're saying I qualify for this, but how much will I receive in this type of loan versus that type of loan? So for federal loans, as I mentioned, there is subsidized and unsubsidized loan. Depending on your status, if you are a freshman, for unsubsidized loan, remember subsidized is need-based. You get $3,500 for the year. For unsubsidized loan, you get $2,000 for the year. You can get both loans for that one academic year, totaling $5,500. As you progress in your education, you will see the amount that you receive actually increases. For a sophomore, you get $1,000 more in subsidized loan. Unsub remains the same. So the amount for the year increases by $1,000. Junior and senior year, those are the years where internships may kick in and so forth. So the cost, of course, of your classes, especially indirect costs, may increase. So 5,500 unsub and 2,000 remains the same for unsubsidized loan, and 7,500 for your total year. Now that was for dependent students. Independent students, on the other hand, receive a little more assistance, not for the subsidized loan, but for the unsubsidized loan. If you notice, subsidized loan, the need-based loan, that remains the same regardless of whether or not you need funds. You're considered financially in need. Unsubsidized loan, on the other hand, where anyone can qualify for it, the amount varies. It actually increases. So instead of a freshman receiving $2,000, as an independent student, that freshman will receive $6,000. Okay, and then you can see the increased amount depending on where you are in your education level. Now, what about grad students? Grad students receive a little more. Subsidized loans are only for undergrads. So once you've graduated, you no longer qualify for subsidized loans. Once you've graduated, you can only receive unsubsidized loans. And that too, as I mentioned, is a federal loan. If you see here for graduate students, it doesn't matter if you're in your first year of your graduate program or second year, the annual amount will be $20,500. If you are a medical student where your education tends to be a little more expensive, then $40,500 is the annual amount. Plus loans, there is no cap for PLUS loans annually, okay? It really depends on what the difference is between the cost of attendance and what you receive in financial aid. And interest rates, you will see here, interest rates for undergrads are 2.75 for subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Once you graduate and you decide, hey, I would like to get a master's degree or a professional degree, then you can take out subsidized, I'm sorry, not subsidized, but unsubsidized loan or a PLUS loan, and the rate is 4.3. And for parents, graduates who are taking out PLUS loans, it's 5.3. So PLUS loans tend to be a little more expensive because they're given to adults. They're not given to individuals who are just now starting their borrowing experience. So that's why it's made out to parents or to professionals who are already in their field or graduates, someone who has gone through the postgraduate experience. All right, Tani, I am passing it over to you.
All right, well, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Tani Shern, and I am the Assistant Director of Student Financial Services here at the University of Tulsa. And it is my pleasure to talk to you today about the FAFSA. And I can absolutely relate to all of you because I remember the process of working with financial aid, as I could not have gone to college without financial aid myself. So I know what you're going through. And also, I have a daughter who is a senior in high school this year. So I completely understand the time, the stress, the work, the patience involved in the entire financial aid process. And I want you to know that we have such a terrific resources here at the University of Tulsa. Our Student Financial Services Office is a wonderful place for you to go for more information. But since most of our campus is virtual right now, I encourage you to visit our financial aid website at utulsa.edu/financial aid. There is a lot of great information there for you. Also, if you don't already know this, every student at the University of Tulsa has their own dedicated financial aid counselor. And you can find your dedicated financial aid counselor on our website, and we would love to assist you with any questions that you may have. You cannot reach out to us with too many questions. So if there are things that you're unclear about or unsure, I want you to really feel encouraged to call or email us because we are very willing and able to help. So today, Dr. Barthelus has asked me to speak with you about the FAFSA, like what it is, how and when to complete it, etc. I know you guys are returning students, so hopefully you might remember a smidge of filling this out last year or in years past. However, I wanted to give you a refresher on what the FAFSA is, what it's used for, where to find it, and how to fill it out. Basically, you guys should already know that if you're interested in financial aid for college, you have to fill out the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. Generally, this takes people, most people, about 30 minutes to complete. And the best part is it's 100% free. And I know that's important for college students. Filling out the FAFSA gives you the opportunity to have access to grants, loans, and work-study funds from the federal government. This is the only way these funds are going to be available to you. Now, when you initially filled out the FAFSA, you were required to create an FSA ID. This is just a username and password that lets you electronically sign your FAFSA, and it gives you access to various websites related to the federal student aid. You will have to have this FSA ID to complete your FAFSA. So before you get started, it's a good idea to go ahead and locate that FSA ID and password so it'll be readily available to you. Also, your parents had to create their own FSA ID as well. Later in this presentation, we're going to get into if your parents need to sign your FAFSA or not, but if you do, it's a good idea to go ahead and have them locate their FSA ID and password as well. So once you have your FSA ID and password, you can begin the process of completing your FAFSA by going online to fafsa.gov. Now, if you're completing your FAFSA right next to your friend, they might have different questions on their FAFSA than you do. That's because the FAFSA uses skip logic. This means that not all FAFSAs will have the same questions. For example, a student completing the FAFSA the very first time will have questions that a student completing the FAFSA as a returning student will not see. Another example is a student who is age 24 or older. They're not going to have all the dependency section questions because the student is the age to be an independent student. Now, as I mentioned above, and as you may remember, filling out the FAFSA is a pretty simple process. As with most websites, it offers helps and hints for each question as you move along. Also, you can look online for the chat feature. It's always located underneath the help button if you want to chat with a federal government agent about a specific question. And also, this same website is where you go to find out more information about loans and other federal aid options. So I would highly recommend that you bookmark this page so that you can access it as you need help. Now, just a reminder, you're going to need a few things when you're filling out your FAFSA. So get ready by gathering your Social Security number, your permanent resident card if you have one, any W-2 forms or records of money you earned, and your tax records. For the FAFSA for next year, you will need your W-2s and tax records from 2019. Now, if you have any questions about what information to gather, there's a complete list of information at fafsa.gov. There's also a section in the FAFSA called Special Circumstances, and here's what that means. If you have circumstances that do not allow you to complete the FAFSA as per the instructions, you should reach out to your TU financial aid counselor for advice on how to proceed, okay? So that means you contact us directly, not the federal government. Now, there's something to note. If your parents are widowed, divorced, or separated, you're typically only going to provide information for the parent that you live with the most. Now, if that parent has you married, you must also enter information for the step-parent. If your parents are unmarried but living together, you're going to have to enter information for both parents. So now on to filling out your parents' federal income tax information. The FAFSA will tell you which tax year's information to use. Now, depending on your parents' tax filing status, they may be able to use the IRS data retrieval tool. This will allow some tax data to transfer from the IRS to the FAFSA, making this process much smoother and easier. TU strongly recommends that all students use the IRS data retrieval tool, as it really does make the process go much smoother and it decreases your chances of being selected for verification. And believe me, if you've ever been selected for verification, you know that you do not want to be selected for verification. So we highly encourage you to use the IRS data retrieval tool. So the FAFSA is going to direct you to the IRS to complete this process, but remember, both you and your parent must have an FSA ID. If they don't have their ID, their tax information is going to have to be manually entered. And one thing that's really important to note is the address that's on your FAFSA must match the address that you used when your taxes were filed. Now, this is really particular. Like, it is so particular that, like, if you live on a street and on your taxes you spelled out street, then on your FAFSA you have to spell out street. You can't abbreviate it and put ST. It is that particular. So just make sure that you are aware of that. So one thing that is handy is, since you've already filled out this FAFSA before, the TU school ID code will automatically be listed as the school to send it to, which is great. Please keep TU there so that the Department of Education will electronically submit the information to us that you provided. Now, if you have other schools listed on your FAFSA from when you initially submitted your FAFSA in years past, it's a good idea to go ahead and remove those schools so they aren't receiving your information anymore. They don't need your financial information anymore. So after entering the parent and the student financial information, you're going to be very close to being finished. You're going to see a screen that says Sign and Submit. And you're going to want to review each of these blue sections very carefully. If you see an error, click on that question and go back and update your answer. Now, once you're satisfied with all of your answers, you're going to click at the bottom of the page and you will see the Next button. And that's where you're going to use that FSA ID to sign the form. If you're required to submit it with your parent on your FAFSA, a parent's also going to have to submit it with their own FSA ID. Now, keep in mind, the FAFSA isn't a one-time thing and then you're done, right? Because that's why you're on this call, right? You're going to need to fill out the FAFSA every single year that you were in school because your financial situation may change. Plus, you may be able to automatically transfer your tax data from the IRS, which is going to make your application even quicker to fill out. It's best to get your FAFSA done as early as possible since some of the funds are available on a first-come, first-served basis and you don't want to miss out. The FAFSA opens on October 1st of each year for the following academic year. So the FAFSA for the next school year for 2021-2022, it's already open. It opened on October 1st. So if you haven't filled out your FAFSA yet, you're going to want to do that as soon as possible because as I said, some of the funds do run out and you don't want to miss out on any of the opportunities that you may have. For example, some students have told me, well, I had federal work study last year. Why don't I have it this year? Well, one reason could be that your family's financial information may have changed. However, another reason could be that we ran out of federal work study funds before you applied. So again, I urge you, go ahead and get your FAFSA completed as soon as possible so you don't accidentally miss out on anything. Okay, so now that you're remembering the FAFSA and why it's so important for you to fill it out, you might be asking, well, how much money do I get? That is the easy part. We do the math for you. There's a simple formula that all schools use, including the University of Tulsa. So first we take your cost of attendance, which is the total amount it will cost you to go to school. Then we subtract your expected family contribution, or EFC. Your EFC is based on the information that you provided in your FAFSA. However, your EFC is not necessarily the amount of money that you're going to have to pay. Basically, your cost of attendance minus your expected family contribution equals your financial need. And we use your financial need and other information to determine how much financial aid you can receive. So that part's pretty simple. You might remember when you were initially accepted into the University of Tulsa, you received an award letter from the admissions office. This contained the scholarships that the admissions office offered to you, and those scholarships are guaranteed to you for 4 years or 8 semesters as long as you're enrolled full-time and meeting the minimum GPA requirements for the scholarships. So your scholarships aren't going to change unless you aren't meeting the minimum criteria. However, your financial aid offer may change from year to year. Again, it's all based on your family's financial status and the data that you submitted on your FAFSA. For all returning TU students, you will not get a scholarship letter from admissions each year. However, you will get an offer letter from financial aid each year. When this is ready for you to view, an email is going to be sent to your official TU email account, letting you know that your financial aid offer is ready to view in your TU portal. The financial aid offer in your TU portal contains all the federal and non-federal financial aid that we can offer to you. So once you get logged into your portal, you're going to click where it says your financial aid package is now ready. And this is going to take you to the details page of your financial aid offer. It's going to give you a breakdown of all of the scholarships, grants, and loans that are being offered to you. Now, if you have any questions about this financial aid offer, please contact our financial aid office. That literally is what we are here for. We want to ensure that our students are able to afford their college education here at the University of Tulsa. That's a priority to us, and we want to help you. So please make sure that you reach out. Okay, So some of you, although you filled out the FAFSA last year, you might not have needed any of the financial aid offers that were offered to you in the past, but maybe this year your financial situation has changed. A lot of us sometimes hear financial aid and we think, well, that's just loans. That doesn't pertain to me. I don't want that. Well, financial aid does consist of loans, but the reality is financial aid is a combination of things. Financial aid consists of scholarships, of grants, work study, and loans. And we're going to go over all of these just a little bit. So scholarships, this is free money that you don't have to pay for. Scholarships are a great thing. As I mentioned above, at TU, you're automatically considered for TU scholarships when you apply. However, there are scholarship opportunities out there from outside sources. Now, I'm not going to get into that today, as we have a whole session planned next week to cover scholarships. But just know there are other ways to receive scholarships from outside sources to help pay for your education. Grants are another form of financial aid, and this is also money that you don't have to pay back. It is free money that you are applying for. Grants can be offered through either the state or the federal government. And if you qualify for and receive a federal or state grant, you won't have to repay that money, and that will definitely offset the cost of school. But you still may need additional help, and that may come in the form of either work study or loans. And it looks like my work study graphic already popped up here. Work study is a program that's set up to help you earn money while you're working on campus. This is a program that's awarded on a first come, first served basis. So again, this is one of the ones you want to file your FAFSA as soon as possible to ensure that you don't miss the eligibility window for this program. Work study is a great option to help pay for school. It's eligible for undergraduate and graduate students, and they're going to earn at least minimum wage, sometimes even more than that. It all depends on the job that you apply for and how many years that you have worked there. And the great thing about work study is that most jobs on campus, hold on, let me get my thing to work. There we go. Most jobs on campus may even give you experience related to your major. For example, English majors could work in the writing center, or chemistry majors could work in the science lab. And work study jobs are also available at the library, the cafeteria, the student union, the fitness center, just about anywhere on campus. And because they are part-time and give you flexible hours, this helps ensure you have plenty of time to focus on schoolwork, which is good because that's really why you're here, right? However, just because you're eligible for work study, that doesn't mean that you're automatically going to have the job. You still have to apply for a position, go through the interview process, and get hired, just like any other job. If you're eligible for federal work study, and you accept it through the TU portal, the financial aid office, my office, is going to send you an email around August 1st of each year, giving you instructions on how to log into our SharePoint site, review the jobs available, and then if you find a job you're interested in, how to apply for a work study position. It's a really simple process, and it is a great way for you to earn money. But please note, if you plan on using your federal work study funds to help pay for your tuition costs, you're going to need to set up a payment plan with the bursar's office, because the University of Tulsa is going to pay you directly for the funds that you've earned, and then you can use those funds to pay the bursar's office. Okay, so the final thing that we're going to speak of in relation to what financial aid offers is loans. And the loans that I am referring to you are those that are offered by the federal government and are designed to help you pay for college. So remember, a student loan is just like any other loan. It's borrowed money that will have to be repaid with interest. If you plan to take out a loan, I want you to consider student loans, federal student loans first. Federal student loans often have lower fixed interest rates, and they offer many benefits that you won't find otherwise. For example, when it's time for you to repay your federal student loan, your loan servicer can work with you to find the best repayment plan for your individual needs. Plus, you may be able to adjust your loan payments based on your income. Federal loans can also be, you can deduct your student loans, you can postpone payments, and you can even consolidate all of your federal student loans into one loan with one monthly payment. And depending on your career, federal loans can even be forgiven based on certain types of employment. Now, if your aid offer does include an option for a loan and you're interested in taking the loan, there are a few more steps before you get your loan. First-time borrowers will need to complete entrance counseling and sign the master promissory note. This is just your agreement to pay back the loan before the loans are applied to your account. Also, new this year, all students must now annually sign a form called an ASLA, which stands for Annual Student Loan Acknowledgement. Basically, the government is ensuring you are aware that you're accepting a new federal student loan for the year. The purpose is to help you understand how your loans are going to affect your financial future. Again, you're going to sign this at fafsa.gov, and you're going to do it in conjunction with completing your entrance loan counseling and your master promissory note. Okay, so how do you get your money? At TU, we automatically apply all of your scholarships and grants to your account. If you accept any loans through your TU portal and complete the entrance counseling, master promissory note, and ASLA, your loans are going to be applied to your account as well. These funds are going to be sent directly to the bursar's office and applied to your tuition fees and any other charges that hit your student account. If you owe funds after all of your aid has been applied, you may either pay your balance in full, or you can set up a payment plan with the bursar's office. Or if your parents are interested, they can also take out a federal Parent Plus loan to help cover your outstanding balance as well. You can learn more about all the different loans that we offer on our financial aid website at utulsa.edu/financial-aid/loans. Now, once you determine how you're going to pay, you're going to want to pay the bursar's office directly. Again, if you need payment plans, they have several different payment plan options available, and it depends on the semester. So if this is something that you're interested in, I encourage you to visit their website at utulsa.edu/bursar. However, if there's money left over, you may be entitled to a refund. The bursar's office is going to process any refunds to you, and they strongly urge you to sign up for direct deposit for your refund, as your funds are going to get to you much sooner. Again, you can find out more information about this and how to set up your account for direct deposit by visiting the bursar's website. So I do hope that this has helped answer some of your questions about what the FAFSA is and what financial aid entails. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, all TU students have a financial aid officer that's dedicated directly to them, and we want to provide you with the best service possible. So if you ever have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to us. We would love to help you. So that was my presentation. I hope you enjoyed this and got to learn a little bit more, and I'm going to send it back to Dr. Barthelus at this time.
Thank you, Tani. Okay, I would like to remind everyone to complete our survey, and our survey has to be completed by tomorrow at noon in order for you to be eligible for the $10 Chick-fil-A gift card that we are giving out this month. So please go ahead and do that, and we look forward to your feedback. And if you have further questions, please feel free to reach out to me or the financial aid office. As Tani mentioned, every student has a designated financial aid officer. So please go ahead and reach out to either office, and we will be more than happy to assist you. Thank you again for spending the time with us, and we look forward to seeing you next week, where we will discuss understanding and how to find scholarships. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.